Cool. So welcome everybody. I'm Antoine Thomas. I work at Highland. We are a company providing intelligent content solution to store a lot of things. I'm doing community management, but I think here I would call it developer relation. Okay, but it's community management with tech people basically. And my job is to study developers, really, their needs and so on. I don't have a tech background, but I will try to take this boring topic of legal compliance and make it interesting. I think it's a huge challenge, and I hope you will actually learn something useful today. So there's three parts. The first one, I will introduce what is legal compliance, actually. The second part is best practices. I will use two common use cases with Docker, actually, to show you, but you will see that it's not something new. Containers are new, but I mean, it's not the only way to ship software, indeed. And at the end, I will show you that there's stuff you can do with your CI and CD as a developer to help do that well. Okay, and there's tools already for that. So, risk management and legal compliance, the first part. Risk management, I would say it's split over two main things. Security, I think everybody in the room understands it. Okay, if there is a problem, you patch. It's a well-identified risk type. And it's something that developers usually understand well because it will be their task to write the patch, fix the stuff, update, or whatever. Legal compliance is also a risk, but it's not a technical risk, it's a legal risk. It means that in countries where patent troll can sue you because they own the rights on some technology, on some code or whatever, if they can claim copyright on something you are using. Of course, if you are a small company, the risk is, I would say, very small. But if you are a huge company earning billions of dollars, it's worth it to pay an attorney to study and get money from you if someone is owning the copyright. The second thing is that nowadays, all software are made out of proprietary software and open source software, and you have to respect the licensing. For example, it's very well known that you cannot ship GPL software with proprietary software. That's the most obvious one. But there are more tricky stuff like GPL v2 not really being compatible with Apache v2. But GPL v3 is compatible with Apache v2, okay? So this is the kind of things we want to address today with how to avoid common traps and legal compliance, again. So usually it's not well known by developers because they don't know. You can study software engineering 5 years, have a PhD in computer science, and you will have 0 day of course on intellectual property management and these kind of things. So I can't blame developers. It's not really a technical problem, I told it, but if we identify a legal compliance problem, let's say with a library that has a license that is not compatible with the software we ship, we will require tech people to change that library, add a new version, or replace it with something else. Okay, so it's not a technical problem, but we will need skilled people to fix it. The second thing is that usually you will need someone like me or someone from legal, a project manager maybe, that will document that in the specification, or if you have an open source project, in the contributing guidelines, meaning that you have to set what are the accepted license for third-party software and what are the license that you can't accept. This is critical, but once it is in the documentation, I mean, developers just have to read the manual, and if they follow that, that's fine. And by the way, you can test that. I will show you later. So, where is the responsibility? it's about software distribution. So if you use it inside your company and you never distribute, it's on-premise, on your private cloud or whatever, but you don't ship it, you don't make it available to third-party people, it's fine. But when you put it on Docker, for example, on the Docker repositories, on Red Hat K, if you put it on GitHub, on your website, so people can download, you're distributing, and so you're the distributor. It means you're the responsible for legal compliance. You have to ensure that what you ship, what you distribute, is legal compliant. As an integrator, let's say you use Alfresco. At Highland, we have Alfresco. A lot of our partners integrate it into their software, and then they ship that Alfresco plus their software into something new. They are redistributing, so they have to take care that the LGPL license of Alfresco is compatible with the general license they use to ship their software. As I told it already, most software nowadays are a combination of open source stuff and proprietary software. So you have to take care about that. There's ways, we will see. And it's not about just Docker. I will use Docker as an example today, a practical example for you. But in the past, or even nowadays, you ship also firmwares, you ship packages like for Red Hat, for example, or Debian. You ship software in zip files, these kind of things. It's something that you ship, and so if you ship that, legal compliance is something that, you have to take care about. So best practices with containers. I will use two main use cases that I guess, who knows Docker here? Who use Docker? Okay, fine. So there's package software and build instruction. You will see that if you use Maven, actually it's quite the same. So the first use case is a Docker image. So what it is? It contains one or more software that are already built, okay? Meaning that each software can have a different license. Plus, eventually, you have some stuff you wrote to glue that and make it work together when it's deployed. The second thing with Docker images is that there are layers. Let's say you put a dependency, but this dependency can have third-party dependencies and can create different layers. It's really easy to have the list of dependencies of the first layer, but with Docker it's difficult to know the entire thing that is actually downloaded and deployed when you launch something with Docker. So you have to take care about that. So my advice with that, keep Docker images for simple software, like PostgreSQL, there's only PostgreSQL in it, okay? If you want to ship, this is important. Generate a software bill of material. Who knows what is a SBOM, software bill of material? 2 people, okay, so you have learned something today. So the software bill of material is just the list of all the dependencies with the version, the license, and the link to where people can get the source. If you use Spotify, for example, or if you use Android, or even your iPhone, you can go in the parameters, look for third-party softwares, and you will find actually a list of all the third-party software used to build the Spotify applications. Okay? This is part of legal compliance. You have to tell. It's what we call the attribution notice. So on the other side, if you're building a big image with lots of stuff inside, but it's only for internal use, because you deploy, you integrate everything, you build one image and you deploy it with Kubernetes, let's say, on your cloud, that's fine because you're not redistributing to third-party people. It's only for internal use. So in this case, you can use, I would say, images with a lot of software. And again, be very careful when you redistribute an image that you've built for a customer, because it's distribution, and here you are responsible for the legal compliance. So your customer can come back to you and say, I'm not happy because, it's not okay. The second use case, it's image file. So there are good things and there's drawbacks. First off, it's just a list of the stuff that will be downloaded with rules to assemble that and run it. So the good news is that it contains no software at all. Okay? Because it contains no software, it's always legally compliant. So that's the trick. If you have to ship, something with a lot of things, and you want to be sure it's legally compliant, you use image files. However, it will be built by the end user. So how do you manage that each build is the same for each customer? This is a tricky thing. So it's not new. What we are doing with Docker is what I've done in the past with Maven. You write a file with all the details. So it means the name of the software, the version, the actual version you want, eventually the repository with the URL that you want to use. It's not always public default Docker repositories. It can be K from Red Hat, it can be even GitHub nowadays is providing services like that. And the last thing is that if you want in the future, let's say in 6-7 months, there is a security patch to apply to one library into this big image. You will have to rebuild the Docker image. So what I advise is that instead of relying on public repositories, you create a private one. Okay? You download everything. You write your image files so it uses your repository. Then when you have to update only one library, you update that to test everything, and you just tell your customer to rebuild from that. And here, you are sure that all customers will build from the same sources. Okay? So that's the best way to ensure, I would say, that the build you can reproduce each time you build. It will be exactly the same, no matter what, no matter where. Tools and solution. There's two things that you should have, I think, in your companies nowadays. First, tools to create software bill of materials. Okay. Again, a software bill of material is sometimes a bit complex to generate. It can require legal expertise, but most often your legal team will have skills with contracts, commercial stuff, and so on, but maybe they will not be very good with intellectual property, except brand management. So I would recommend that you work with maybe some consultants and so on. There's expensive ones, there's cheaper ones. You can also ask the OSI, the Open Source Initiative, if you need advice, because they know a lot of people. There's companies in Europe doing that very well. And there's tools also. So Tern, typically, has been written by open source enthusiasts that need to be sure that what they ship is legal compliant. So it will be able to take a Docker image and look at the different layers and provide a complete list. Okay? But again, if you do that well, and if you follow my first advice to have everything into a private repository, to have an archive actually, then you can also generate your SBOM from this archive. That's a good way to do it. Documentation is something I think is mandatory. Most often when we think about contribution guideline, or I would say developer documentation, we think about code style, we think about what is recommended in terms of environment for testing and production, how to write tests indeed, these kind of things. But having a section called legal compliance or something like that into your developer documentation, can be on GitHub Wiki, on Confluent, I don't know what you use, is important because once it's documented, you can list what is accepted. You can list what needs some study. For example, again, if you use GPL v2 software and you use Apache v2 software, in some cases, you cannot ship that together, so it must be studied a bit by skilled people to check that it's possible, or find a workaround. And then you also, I would say, list everything that is not acceptable with your project. There's wonderful licenses on NPM and other software repositories like that, like the WTFL license. Literally, it's a do what the fuck you want license. Don't do that. I will take an example. You find an ice cream on the ground. Well, you will not eat it. But it's the same with software that you find on the internet. You should never just take that and say, oh, cool, it does the job, and I put it in my software. You check the license, who are the maintainers. You will check security, if there is CVE, these kind of things. So you also need to check the license that it's compatible with your project. Documenting all that and training your developers regularly is really important. It makes a real difference because fixing that after can be very costly. At least it will require you to change the library or the third-party software, write new code to make it run, redo all the tests, ship it again, and eventually deploy it again on the customer premises. And then you can use CI/CD, because once it's documented, it's possible to write tests. So I've been working with some projects doing that with GitHub Actions, for example, where when someone is doing a pull request that add actually a third-party library, or if you edit, I don't know, a POM file or something like that, it will actually ask a few information, and based on that and what you documented, you can clarify if it's okay or not. And a pull request can be really rejected just because of a license problem. Currently, the trend in legal compliance for software is to use SPDX. So SPDX is what Debian is using to onboard the license inside the deb files. And in Europe, a lot of companies, more and more companies are shipping software libraries and technology in general with the SPDX stuff inside in a meta file, following the SPDX specifications, so that tools like Tern or Fossology can read that and generate the SBOM, and also write tests for that. So this is something very useful, and you want to do that. The second point is having an open source program office nowadays. Even if you're building proprietary software or you're a service company, it means having, I would say, a pool of people working on this topic. It can be a lead dev, it can be a legal people, maybe your CTO, taking some time from time to time to just think about the strategy. Because nowadays, everybody is building their software products on top of open source technologies. And that's it. You need to take care. In my slides, there's a lot of resources. So I will share that, and you will have the direct links. And you can meet me at the booth. And it looks like I'm late. Sorry for that.